is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Terror Table, a horror movie podcast presented by the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I'm one of your regular hosts that you hear every single week. My name is Mitch, and with me, as always, I got my pal.
It's Buzi.
Mitch and Buzi are back in the trap. It has been a while.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, we've been inconsistent. We've been busy. We've had a lot going on in our lives, and I know we've kind of briefly updated people on that in previous episodes, but we are here to say that after this episode, it should hopefully be getting back to somewhat normal. Some things might change around here, but we're just going to keep swinging.
Yeah, for all the people
keep our stick on the ice.
Yeah, for all the people asking, no, we're not done.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah, I guess it was funny. We were going to mention this on, I think, the Pumpkinhead episode, which we still have. Fuck, I forgot I still have that. So we'll put that out soon.
Haven't even released that one yet.
No, yeah, we haven't even released it. That was with Seb, too.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we were talking about how, like, some people thought because myself, Mitch, had posted a Kickstarter and I basically announced to everyone that I'm going to be moving across the country to pursue a career in film, and that I was making my first short film this summer. Everyone kind of assumed that we were going to be donezo, and that ain't it. That's not the plan. There's no way I want to stop doing this anytime soon.
No,
and
me either.
If the pandemic has proved anything, it's that we can do this virtually and apart, and hopefully
I was going to say quality... it's like people don't realize that we can still use Skype. There'll be like a slight time difference, but like we've literally done it with guests all the time.
Exactly, and if anything, the quality is going to sound even better now because we're going to try and step our game up a bit, get we're recording quality better.
We're not going to just be that podcast anymore. We're going to be that podcast that sounds good as well.
Exactly.
Also, Mitch, I would just like to say on air for the first time, let me be the first one to say congratulations. Druid's Hand finished. We wrapped up filming, and now it's on to the next step. It's huge for you, and congratulations. Everyone listening to this should be excited for you, and if they somehow didn't know, now you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it was awesome having you involved in the whole production and everything, and having you there by my side, and I got to see some pretty crazy things that we have in store, like all the stuff that Jesse and I have been working on for a very long time. We put a lot of work into this thing, and it ain't no joke. This thing's going to be pretty cool. I'm very, very excited to show people, and I hope even you coming out to set and like being a part of it saw that it's like, it's a little bit even different than how we're making it sound. We put a lot of work into this thing.
Oh, and it'll show. It'll show in the final product, and I'm excited for everybody to see it.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. I cannot wait. So yeah, we wrapped filming on August 15th, 2021, and now it's in the hands of Jason Hamill, which is where most things go to die, is the hands of Jason Hamill. But he's going to be bringing this thing to life. He's going to be doing the final cut, the final edit. He's editing the thing up together for us, and we got some. This is actually kind of cool that we haven't mentioned on here yet either. Speaking of Pumpkinhead episode, we recorded that episode on Pumpkinhead before we had found out that we were going to be hiring Kevin Barron for post-production sound. Kevin Barron he worked on Pumpkinhead, Freddy's Dead. He did all of Malcolm in the Middle, Supernatural, Smallville, just the list goes on. It's crazy. So that was very special for me because it was about a week after we had recorded the episode that no one has heard yet on Pumpkinhead, which, spoiler alert, that's one of my faves. I love that movie. So that's just really cool that we were able to get that going. But yes, long-winded answer for thank you.
Of course, and it turned into Pumpkinhead, which is the greatest way to accept compliments, is to turn it into Pumpkinhead references.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, before we get going and start talking about what we've been seeing and what we've been up to, I guess we should say that we have a special guest this week. We had spoken with Clayton Witmer, who is the co-writer and director of The Arbors, a 2020 sci-fi thriller horror film. And it's very, very cool. It's a very moody, tense, atmospheric little meditation.
It's a creature feature, which is something we love here. Everybody knows.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, is I want to play just for, it's not the type of creature feature that some people might think. This isn't like Itsy Bitsy, which I haven't seen Itsy Bitsy yet. You know how much I love creature features, like, but it was different than I was
expecting. As someone who has seen Itsy Bitsy, no, it is not Itsy Bitsy.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool, tense little moody film that is on Tubi right now, so you can watch all 2 hours of it on Tubi. And we definitely recommend it, but it was really fun talking to Clayton, really nice guy, and we hope you guys enjoy that conversation. But before that, let's talk about what we've been up to. Jesus, before that even, I just want to say, part of our Kickstarter for The Druid's Hand, we had raised 188% of our funding goal, which was insane. Don't need to go through it all again, but I just hope people aren't sick of me thanking them, but thank you. Like, that's absolutely amazing.
I don't think anybody's going to be like, oh, shut the fuck up, Mitch. Quit being appreciative, you
I
dick.
don't know, man. If you saw, like, the last day on set, like, I'm pretty sure I was probably getting annoying for being like, I fucking love you to everybody, because, man, we had you saw it. We had the absolute best crew. Like, just the most amazing people. And it was just, the whole thing was just made with so much heart and love. And it was the best experience of my life. Best 4 days of my life, hands down. But what I was getting at is one of the perks on our Kickstarter campaign was to get a guest spot on a Terror Table episode with yours truly. Buzi, you're of course welcome to join whenever you want for these, but I'm not going to expect you to, because these are things that I'm going to have to... But we got 8 people that we got to get to here,
correct.
So
8 generous backers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there might be some that'll have me and Buzi on there, might be some with Kyle, might just be me and the guest, but I just wanted to let everyone know that we're going to have 8 bonus episodes. So all of these months that we've been quiet, we're going to make up for it. There's going to be a couple times where we're going to have 2 episodes a week. There's going to be times where it'll, like, you know, we're busy. We got shit to do. We're just always going to try and make sure there's at least 1 episode out a week moving forward. But I wanted to I just wanted to personally thank all the backers who chose to buy this perk, or to contribute and get this perk. So Brent Hibbard, my boy from Let's Talk About Stuff, like one of my absolute favorite people to talk to, he didn't need to, like, none of these people needed to do this. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think anyone was going to want this. I was like, who in the fuck would spend money to talk with me? But that's not what they are doing. They're just supporting the project, and it's a bonus that they get to do an episode of the Terror Table. But there's a couple of people on here who have been on the Terror Table before, Brent Hibbard being one of them. But thank you, Brent, and thank you for mentioning the Kickstarter and the project on Let's Talk About Stuff. I'm a weekly listener of that show. I love those guys, so it meant a lot to me to hear them talking about it on there. Like, that's the kind of thing that helps these little projects get to, you know, reach new heights. But anyways, yeah, thank you, Brent. And Andrea Moore, I haven't had the chance to meet Andrea yet, but I'm looking forward to talking with her on the Terror Table. We also have Nicholas Humphreys, our goddamn boy. He is. I'm going to see... Did I tell you I'm going to Vancouver on Sunday for a couple days?
Because we were going to go see Candyman, and now we're not.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know.
That was a short-lived conversation. It was like, can you go this day? No. Can you go this day? No. Okay.
Yeah. I know. What world are we living in where I'm not going to see Candyman on opening night? Like, right? That's crazy. But it's a busy time. But yeah, Nick, I'm going to be couch surfing at Nick's house. He's going to help me try and find a place, so I can't wait for that. But he's also going to be on the Terror Table again. Also, Sean Talley, who is a producer, and he's one of the podcast co-hosts of the Paper Street podcast, which is the production company for Aaron B. Kuntz's production company. And that one was really, really exciting for me because I'm a fan of Sean, and he's an example of a guy who I would have been nervous to reach out to try and see if he would want to come on here. So it's really, really exciting that he's choosing to come on the show himself. So I'm really, really looking forward to talking with Sean. We also have Derek Yakimchuk, who not only donated to the Kickstarter, but he also worked his ass off on this film. So,
he sure did. That boy's scared of heights, and he was up and down ladders all day.
Yeah, that boy's scared of a lot of things, and he just fucking killed it every second on that set. So I'm really looking forward to that.
He's not afraid to show love to his homies, and that's really all that matters.
That is all that matters. And but the thing I'm going to say here is the whole perk was like you get to choose a movie of your choice. I guess I didn't specify horror, So some of these episodes aren't going to be horror, but I figure our listeners are going to be down for it. But Derek is actually going to be the first episode. I'm recording that with him on Sunday before I head out to Vancouver, and he chose Ace Ventura. So,
a classic Terror Table feature.
Sorry, I was just drinking water. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm a fan of Ace Ventura, so I'm really looking forward to that.
You know what? I feel like all of us, we all grew up in that time period of like talking butts. It was great.
Yeah, for a lot of people. I know there's some people out there who definitely it's not their jam, and I understand why. But I was like 6 years old when I saw Jim Carrey talking.
Do you
with
remember
his ass.
when he punched the Monopoly man, like knocked him out, and then like pretended to talk like that was funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's always funny. And then, we got Jay Luke, friend of the show. He's also coming on. And Craig Silliphant, who's been on the show before. Craig the Movie Geek, our pal here. I'm looking forward to seeing what Jay and Craig, like what they choose for a movie. And then Elio, our boy Elio, Big L, from the Big Apple. That's what New York is, right? The Big Apple?
What kind of apple do you think the Big Apple would be? Like, would it be like a Granny Smith?
It's got to be a Gala.
Ooh, Red and Delicious.
Yeah. Ooh, a Red Delicious. That's the one. That's the one. All right, speaking of Red Delicious, thank you all for it. Yeah, that's 8 people who are going to be coming on.
Speaking of Red Delicious, thank you all beautiful people.
Yeah, but with all that out of the way, I guess we can just get right into talking about what we've been up to.
Hold on, I got one more thing.
Oh,
I was trying to cram it in before, but we didn't get to it. Aside from all these bonus episodes coming out, you're probably going to be hearing this episode in September. Our anniversary is coming in October, and we're going to have some big exciting stuff going on for that as well. So, give us presents. No.
Yeah, no, the present is still listening to us, especially when it's been a while since I've been on the mic. I'm rusty today.
Dude, we're celebrating. We've been around for so long now.
I know. Yeah, 5 years. That's crazy.
We've been around half a decade. Like, that's wild.
I didn't think I would make it to 5 years old.
You didn't think you'd make it to 5 years old?
No, I don't know what I'm
this real tiny, depressed little baby Mitch.
Yeah.
I hate myself.
Yeah. And just like that, you find out that I've been depressed since even before the divorce. Folks! All right. Yeah. Let's, there's going to be cool things coming in October, regardless. Stay tuned for more Terror Table. But before we get talking about the stuff, do you want to hear a quick word from our sponsors, Buzi?
I always want to hear a word from our sponsors.
The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is supported by Connexus. Wellness, however you define it, is achievable. You don't even need to figure it all out yourself. Talk to Connexus. They'll give you guidance, motivation, and the push you need to reach your goals. They've got you. They're your financial partner, and they know you can achieve your very best, your financial best. Prove them right. Start right at Connexus Credit Union.
All right. Well, do you want to talk about what we've been up to, Buzi? I'm curious. Like, what have you watched lately? Let's talk about horror movies. It's been a while.
I've been waiting. I've seen my favorite movie this year so far, and
you've said that before.
It's true.
Just you wait. Okay. Well, there's still Halloween Kills isn't out yet.
Speaking of that, super exciting. Also, this isn't directly like movie related, but like let's talk about Aliens Fireteam for a second.
Oh right, yeah. I
didn't know if you were going to throw that in there, but like you've been on it, and I think I'm going to get on it. I think you should.
So Aliens Fireteam Elite. This is the new game it's in the Aliens universe, and this is a game franchise. Like the Alien films have never made for great games. We've seen a lot of really, really bad video games over the years. I wouldn't say that this is like an amazing game by any means, but I really like it. Like, I'm having fun. I'm a huge Aliens fan, so I'm kind of getting my fix here. I didn't even play much of Colonial Marines, so I don't know how bad that game was because I didn't really get into it.
Day one, it was bad.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm just... I don't know. I wasn't expecting a lot from this Aliens Fireteam. Like, people had described it as Left 4 Dead, but instead of zombies, it's aliens. And yeah, bingo. That's exactly what it is. It's just insanity. There's just countless
So
xenomorphs.
it's totally like just like that, because it also has classes, right? You have all these different kind of aliens,
Yeah,
and they'll do kind of similar things.
Oh man, they have like there's like xenomorphs that have like a lot of this is apparently from like the extended lore of like canon, like where it's there's a lot of like books and everything for people who are just huge fans of Alien that they make reference to, and like there's some of the xenomorphs where they have like the bulb on their head is like pussing with like toxic waste, and it's like they explode, kind of like bloaters in Left 4 Dead. But yeah, it was $49.99. I bought it on Steam.
It was only $49.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought this was like a full-priced game.
No, and that's why I don't know. I think obviously I've only played 2 missions so far, so I can't speak too much about it. But I can say that I had an absolute blast the entire time I was playing it. It's like this isn't a AAA game, so don't expect Doom style mechanics. You know, like you're not going to get amazing mechanics from games like this. This was a smaller team of developers, and I think they did a really good job. Like obviously, Alien Isolation exceeded any expectations that any Alien fan should have had for an Alien game. Like that was just such a good, tense experience, and it's an actually scary game. This is just like more of the Left 4 Dead, Gears of War, third-person shooter. You're mowing down aliens.
Yeah, that like
they call it
mode.
bug hunts. I want a Starship Troopers game like this. That's what I want.
I think we've mentioned this on here before, that there is like a computer game that's like 1 million years old that was the same idea as like a last stand. You just shoot oncoming bugs forever. But yeah, I would love a full-on Starship Troopers game. It could just literally follow the arc of the movie, and I'd be happy with that. I want to go to Clendathu.
I would be extra happy if that's what they did with it. But yeah, I don't know. I recommend if you're a diehard Aliens fan, like, and
so there's some decent fan service in this.
Big time. Yeah, I don't know. There were a couple things where they just like even characters had mentioned certain things that are from the films, and there's some references to Prometheus and everything as well. Like there's some.
That's good.
I don't want to spoil. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm a fan of it. But keep in mind, I'm not like, when I game hard, but I don't game a lot. But especially lately. But this one, it's tickling my fancy. I'm enjoying sitting down and just being able to mow down bugs.
Okay, I have one more question before we go, and it's just kind of, have you been playing with other people, or have you been playing with the computers as your allies?
Well, I think it's because it's an online multiplayer, so I'm pretty sure those are just other players, like in the world.
No, because you can also just have random like AI do it for offline, isn't it?
I don't actually know about that. I haven't spent enough time looking into it, but I do know that it's like meant to be an online shooter. So I think that like you don't hear them playing. Like I don't have headsets turned on or anything like that, but yeah, you just kind of go through missions together, and it's always like 3 people. At least the ones that I've played so far have been 3 different players, and you just face off against the xenomorphs, and it's a ton of fun. So yeah, that's Aliens Fireteam Elite. You want to talk about what movies have you seen recently, Buzi?
All right, so in the last little while, I have a couple things to talk about, and the first one is I hope I didn't talk about this in the last episode. That's how long it's been since I've watched this. But I watched 1993's When a Stranger Calls Back.
It has been a long time, but let's hear it anyways. Just I don't remember you talking about it, but that movie is fucking sick.
Yeah, so it's a cool little 90s, what would it be? Like, it's basically
Slasher-ish.
just an obsession, like slasher stalking movie. And it's very interesting for its time. I think it's aged pretty poorly, honestly. Like, when was the last time you've seen this movie?
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember it being better than the original.
Really? Because I actually like the original, and maybe that, like, I think that's maybe why our opinions differ, because I was actually, like, hoping this would be more like the original, and I felt like it wasn't, and that's kind of, I liked the original.
I don't mind the original. I just don't like the remake.
Right. I like that. I like that one too, honestly.
I know.
I think I'm like the only person in the world who likes that one.
There's got to be other idiots like you out there.
Somewhere. I honestly, like, I can't give this movie too great a review. I haven't seen, when I watched it was quite a while ago, and just looking at my Letterboxd review, I only gave it 1 star, so.
All right, sounds good. So yeah, When a Stranger Calls Back. I still want to check that one out again. It's on Tubi, isn't it?
Yeah. Please, if you watch it, please tell me, like, if you still like it.
Okay, will do. Yeah, I'll start off with one that I know I'm pretty sure you have talked about this one recently, and it's a second-time watch for me, but this was a couple weeks ago. I rewatched Lynn Ramsey's We Need to Talk About Kevin. So this is the film
I heard you at the theater
Swinton.
talking about this. Yes, I did watch this recently as well, but yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton, John C. Reilly, and Ezra Miller being so terrifyingly perfect for this role. This is one of those things
a little too, like, suspectedly perfect.
Yeah. So it's if you know, like, if you're familiar with Lynn Ramsey's work, she's done films like Ratcatcher and We Need to Talk About Kevin. You Were Never Really Here. Jesus, I always mess it up, and that's probably my favorite of all
and that
movies.
movie is really good too. Every time we bring it up.
Good. Yeah, it's awesome. But Ezra Miller is just so goddamn good in this movie. It jumps back and forth between the childhood upbringing of Tilda Swinton's son Kevin and her relationship with him and the challenges that she faces, and it jumps between those sequences to modern day, which take place after he had committed a horrific act at his school. And it's one of those things that just kind of makes you question parenting, makes you question, like, insanity and mental illness and where it could come from. And it's an incredibly heavy film, like most of Lynn Ramsey's stuff. Actually, all of her stuff is pretty heavy. But this is just masterful filmmaking. Like, I loved this thing when it came out. I liked it. I think at that point it was too depressing for me at that time. Like,
I was going to say, you can't really have a good time watching this. It is hard to digest, the subject matter.
Yeah, it is, but, like, I've made it no secret that I'm a fan of, like, ultra depressing films, and this is definitely one of the best of the last 20 years for, like, that depressing core type film. And I just think it's absolutely masterful. I love this movie so much. It's devastating. So if you haven't seen that one, it's not directly a horror movie, but it's very, very tense, very strange, and upsetting. It's very tragic. So that's We Need to Talk About Kevin. What else you got, Buzi?
I checked out a movie from last year on Shudder. I've been actually trying to get on Shudder more, and there's definitely a lot of good stuff on there. But I checked out 2020's An Unquiet Grave, directed by Terrence Cray. And it's about a man going back to the site of a automobile crash that killed his wife a year after with her sister, and he has a plan and a mission. It's pretty dark and twisted. It deals with, I don't want to give too much away, but it deals with some supernatural stuff and has some really cool practical effects on it, and I think that it gives just enough occasional scares that it's like it's a fun watch. I don't feel like I was ever bored with it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's I have this one in my watch list on Shudder, so it's cool to hear that you enjoyed it. I recognize this guy from somewhere. I think he's Terrence Cray. I don't know. Either way, yeah. That is cool. Yeah, I will check that one out.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I kind of wish they would have came out this year. It might have made my top whatever. I just unfortunately hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
For last year's.
Well, I'm going to take you back in time with an original and a remake. I'm going to knock off two right now at the same time because I hadn't seen the original in years. It had been a very, very long time. And it's also no secret this is a well-beloved remake. Like, there's a lot of people who like this remake, me being one of them.
Hold on.
I rewatched.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, how well is the remake liked?
It's fucking awesome.
Is it considered like one of the best remakes?
Yes.
Is it Evil Dead?
No.
It's not Evil Dead.
I did watch that again, though. But that's the thing, is it's kind of cheating for me to ever bring up. I watch The Evil Dead all the time.
No, I know, but that I thought you were talking about like the 2011 one. So I was like, oh, okay.
No, The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it had been a very long time since I revisited Wes Craven's original from 1977. It's one where, like, this was... The Hills Have Eyes remake came out in 2002, I believe, so I was like 12 years old.
Wait, was it 02? I thought it was later than that. You keep talking, I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah, either way, I saw the remake when I was pretty young, and then I watched the original afterwards, and, you know, when you're 12 or 13 years old, you're probably going to enjoy the one that's a little flashier. So that is definitely the case here.
Right. Okay, so what is 2006? Because I remember when this came out, me and all, like, my little friends got together and watched this, and I haven't seen it since, like, way back then, but I remember it being just gory and violent as fuck.
Maybe should I save this? Should we do an episode on the original and the remake?
I would love to.
Yeah, I the only thing I will say moving forward from here is, like, I fucking love both of these movies.
Right.
They are both. But
can you confirm? Is it still, like, as gory as I think it is?
Yeah, no, it's one of the most relentless fucking movies ever. Like, that's the thing, is, like, the remake is savage. Like, they go to the line, like, of where it's maybe just about not acceptable anymore, and then they take a few steps over it.
Right.
Like, that's Alex Alja's Hills Have Eyes remake. But then Wes Craven's his original, it's like it's the dialogue that's so gross, and just like it's so, I don't even know how I would describe it. Like, the lore of the Hills Have Eyes is amazing.
Like it being based off of the hermit with the family, and
yes,
that's so cool.
Different. Yeah, it's a little different than the remake, but it's like early Craven, like early Wes Craven. That's another one that, you know, I rewatched the Last House on the Left for the first time in years, like almost over a decade. I watched that earlier on this year, and that movie also jolted up so high in my books. Like, watching it as an adult, like, I love that original as much as you can say that you love.
And I was going to say,
like
that's also a tough movie to digest.
Grim. Yeah, but The Hills Have Eyes is definitely very similar in a lot of ways. I think early Craven, he's just so goddamn cynical and dark.
Right.
And, like, some of the dialogue, like, I wrote down a quote from one of the characters in the original. Like, the way that the hill people, the mutants, whatever you want to call them, speak to each other is just so gnarly. Like, one of them says, "Make sure y'all don't get rid of that tenderloin baby unless I say so." They keep on calling a baby tenderloin, and, like, "Pass me the baby tenderloin." And it's like, good God. Yeah, that is a choice.
Do you think they're like watching the kid, like, don't let him crawl, don't let him walk, you're making the meat to this. Oh
God, yeah. This ain't a free range tenderloin baby.
Yeah, the free range baby.
And yeah, so the thing is, like, in 1977, obviously the acting is going to be a little bit different. Also, this movie wasn't an already established, like, body of work, so the remake clearly had a way bigger Hollywood budget. But it's like I said, the dialogue. There's a scene where the dad, the hill people are, like, eating the dad, and as they're eating him, he, like, nods and says, "All right, let's get started." It's like, what do you, like, so much savage stuff has happened at this point, and yeah, there's so many times in early Craven that I see, like, a side of him that's clearly just scared of religion. Like, obviously he dissects and pulls from his fear of God and his fear of religion and the religious upbringing that he had, and he does that in a lot of his movies. But The Hills Have Eyes is one of the ones that I feel really, really stood out. Like, a lot of those moments, like, there's the dad getting a stake through his hand, kind of like Jesus on a cross, and it's brutal. But
just little subtle nods to your buddy Jesus.
Exactly, yeah. But both movies are great. I think that the remake, while there are, like, I will say now as an adult, I prefer the original. I really, really like the original now. But the remake is great. Like, it's what a remake should be, and it is incredibly savage. It's so much more brutal than you could expect. Like, I don't understand how people could shit on, like, this is definitely not one of the remakes where they could say that it was diluted down to Hollywood nonsense, you know? Like, it's still an insanely brutal movie. But yeah, and it's genuinely scary and genuinely upsetting. There's one scene in both of them, specifically the remake, that I think could be taken out because it's so
Little too much.
It's a lot, but the thing is, it's also kind of a key point to what Craven was going for in terms of intrusion and all that kind of stuff. But it's a very, very rough scene to watch. But
so what you're saying is we should humorously cancel Wes Craven?
No, that will never happen. It could never be canceled. Love that man. But yeah, those are The Hills Have Eyes. So what else do you got, Buzi?
I can't wait to do a full episode if that's the plan. I can't wait to do a full episode on that. I'm gonna talk about this one pretty quick, and I'm gonna get the other one I want to talk about another way, and then that's all I got. So just bear with me. This is another Tubi, or not Tubi. This is another Shudder movie. Like I've said, I've been going through. So this is 2020's The Call. It's Tobin Bell, Lin Shaye.
Oh yeah.
Obviously you remember Truth or Dare, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's the same kind of thing. I honestly, this shouldn't have been my kind of movie. Just with I shouldn't have started this movie. Like I feel like you would be the one who got the Lin Shaye. I'm gonna watch this Lin Shaye movie, right? Because you love Lin Shaye.
Just because I like her in the Insidious movies. That doesn't mean every movie.
Okay, so you wouldn't go out and check out The Call because she's in it.
Well, I didn't go out and check The Call.
Right.
So that should answer your question.
I think that's exactly what it's just. There's nothing really here. It's about a bunch of kids who torment this old lady, and then something happens to her and they have to answer a phone in her house. I'm not even joking. It is weird. Tobin Bell's character, maybe it's all his roles, but in this movie he literally has to explain all these rules to people, which just makes me feel like it's what he's good at doing. He's good at telling people.
Jigsaw again.
Exactly. It's the same basic idea. He's I got some rules and here they are. It's not good. It's supposed to be kind of a spooky ghost movie. I couldn't get into it. It's just, yeah. So there was that. I would say probably avoid that one on Shudder. And then the last one I want to talk about is I have to actually ask, have I talked about it already? Because I know I've talked to you a million times about it. Have I talked about Caveat on the Terror Table?
No, you haven't.
And I feel like
I guess I can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you want to talk about it?
Oh yeah, go hard.
Okay, because we've both seen this, and I think I've seen it 3-4 times now. I'm not even joking.
Shit.
I've seen. So this is a Shudder movie as well, and it is directed by Damien McCarthy.
Yeah,
and
written by him as well.
Yeah, written and directed by Damien McCarthy, and it is fantastic. I do not know how to describe this movie entirely. Me and Mitch have actually talked about it quite a bit, unfortunately not on air, but I remember mentioning it to him that I haven't seen anything quite like this. It's a very cool concept, and there's genuinely some very scary stuff in this movie. How would you describe the story for this?
Well, it's been a couple weeks since I've watched it, so I'm just going to read the IMDb synopsis here. I have it pulled up because, this is one that I really enjoyed, and it came highly recommended from you. And, it's just, the synopsis is, a lone drifter suffering from partial memory loss accepts a job to look after a psychologically troubled woman in an abandoned house on an isolated island. So it is just a very secluded, dreary, psychological horror movie.
Very.
And very good acting. I like the acting across the board. It's an Irish horror film, and I thought it was just very inventive, and you didn't really know where it was going. It's just a really tight 1.5-hour movie.
And that's the thing I think I liked the most about it is you really did not know where it was going, and not in a bad way. You were intrigued the whole way through.
Yeah. No, definitely in a good way, and it's just it's a very strange experience, but I think if you're someone out there who enjoys those types of cerebral, psychological horror movies, this is definitely one worth checking out. Obviously every time I say psychological horror, I always think of Jacob's Ladder, and while it's nothing, it's not a lot like that, there are similarities in it, and it's just a really good, interesting it's a really interesting idea.
Yes.
And one that I'm not going to lie, in the first like 15 minutes, I was like, I don't know about this, because the plot device I was like, I just don't know if I buy into how this guy is going to end up here.
Right.
But then as you let the story unfold and you learn more about it, and maybe nothing is as it seems. And so that's a high praise for me. I don't know. I think it's a really solid psychological horror movie, and I love the set. Set and like the plot devices that they use. They use a lot of really inventive, cool things to keep their characters in certain places, or to push them out of their comfort zone and out of their into the horror.
Yeah, and I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but one of the scariest scenes, I think it's probably the scariest scene I've seen all year for sure, and just genuinely, because we've mentioned this before, is we've seen so many horror movies. It's not always easy to get that genuine actual fear. There is some genuinely scary shit in this movie. Like, personally, I would say there are a couple of scenes where I was genuinely like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's a creepy movie, and they did a lot with not a lot, if that makes any sense. Like, with their resources, it was very impressive. So yeah, that's Caveat. It came out in Canada, I believe it's a 2020 movie, but we got it on June 5th, 2021, and on Shudder. So
yeah, and I've been singing about it ever since.
Yeah, this has definitely been the one that has seemed like, even off air, it seems like it's the one that excited you the most this year. So if you're a Terror Table listener and you tend to agree with Buzi, or are at least intrigued by his opinion, this is one that you should definitely be putting at the top of your list.
Or if you don't like my opinion at all, watch it and tell me meticulously why I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I just appreciate the conversation, honestly.
Yeah. All right, well, yeah, I only have one more, and I think it's one that you've seen as well. How many more do you have, Buzi?
I just have one more.
Is it Honeydew?
Oh, okay, never mind. I have two more.
Okay, let's talk about Honeydew then really quick. So this is one that we had shown at the Broadway Theatre, Saskatoon Fantastic Film Festival, and the Broadway Theatre teamed up to play Honeydew, which is a horror movie that I know that we were trying to get for the festival last year, but things just didn't work out. But when we had watched it in the screening process, I know that the three programmers, the Saskatoon-based programmers here, all kind of lost their minds over it, me included. I think it's a really strange horror movie. But the synopsis is: strange cravings and hallucinations befall a young couple after seeking shelter in the home of an aging farmer and her peculiar son. The movie is written and directed by Devarro Milburn, and it stars Sawyer Spielberg, which is Steven Spielberg's son, and Malin Barr, who plays Riley. And then I also want to just mention Barbara Kingsley, the old lady in this film, is just tremendous. But yeah, so this was... She
does the interesting old lady better than... Yeah.
Anyone. Out of all the movies, there's a lot of movies out there with the creepy old lady trope. I think this is one of the creepiest ones.
Oh, she kills it.
Yeah,
and you want to like her the whole time too.
yeah, it's strange, but this is an example of one that so John, Jeff, and I watched it, and we all loved it and wanted to play it, and it just didn't work out. So it's cool that we got to show it in the theater anyways. But it's currently holding a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb with a 40% Metascore, which at first I was kind of all three of us were very surprised, because we're like, what? How is this movie, we thought it was so good, so how is it possibly getting all these really low scores? Then I watched it again, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not a movie for mainstream audiences in any capacity. This is a challenging movie. It's very, very strange, very cerebral. I compare it to, I'm thinking of Ending Things meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So if you're into those kinds of just really moody, weird, strange stories that go into some pretty extreme horror, it's one that I still highly recommend. I know this time around I found the score a little distracting. I love the score, but I think it was kind of overboard. But that's not even... It's a really, really good score, and it's very loud. Very, very unsettling. But yeah, so I've already talked about Honeydew. I didn't even get to hear what you thought of it. Let's hear what you thought, Buzi.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Honeydew here. This was a really cool movie. I loved so much of the idea of this and the tension that it builds. And yeah, you're right. It is hard to explain, and at times it is hard to follow because you're not given a lot at certain points. You're just kind of forced to watch people do things you might not like, or it's kind of gross. And I do appreciate a lot of that stuff. I do feel like I don't want to cut you off here, but I do need to. I just thought of the perfect comparison. You know when Gabe in The Office makes a horror movie and he shows everyone? And it's like people cutting into a cake and stuff. There's a lot of that in this. Yeah. It's if you have any sort of weird like food
ASMR.
ASMR. I don't know if it'd be a kink. It definitely plays on that. But I guess the point I wanted to come across is the story is so all over the place. By the end, I just kind of felt like a little bit lost.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that was there was so much going on at the end, and then it just stops, and I think that kind of threw me off. I do think it's a very cool movie. There are some genuinely tense scenes in this. I think a lot of the stuff in the basement is particularly and it's something that we've always talked about. We like on the show is just how to use space to make it more impactful and scary, and I think that they did a great job that way. And I think there was some very interesting how they did certain camera tricks. They had kind of their own unique thing that they kept going back to kind of shake things up, and it did feel a little distracting, I'm not gonna lie, but it was a very kind of like it snapped you back into wherever you were in the movie, which I assume that's what they were going for. So yeah, overall I thought this was is really, really good. Like I said, the story wasn't entirely for me, but I don't think that makes it a bad movie at all.
No, yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I didn't pick up on the first time I saw it, was that it was not only written and directed by Devarro Milburn, but he also edited it. Mm-hmm. And like the editing is pretty, like it's a very crucial element to the storytelling of this film. There's a lot of like really strange, weird cuts, and it's one of those movies where you're meant to be confused. It's like you're meant to be confused.
It wasn't that like you're never not paying attention. It's literally that they don't give you the answers.
Yeah, and then he kind of jolts you into the nightmare with the two characters and what they're experiencing, and that's just simply a plot, like a certain type of storytelling that a lot of people aren't gonna. It's not gonna resonate with them. So I understand the low scores, but I had to slap myself because I'm like, wait a minute, like obviously there's so many movies that I love that have really, really low scores that, the
and
scores
it's going to keep
really
you up at night. I get it.
Well, they really do not matter for movies this challenging. It's a very challenging movie, and it's clearly just one that's going to work for some people and not work at all for others.
Right.
And I get both sides. I'm a fan of it, but it is one, I guess I know it was your favorite horror movie of the year last year, but I also see a lot of similarities to something like The Dark and the Wicked, in terms of just like the setting and like the kind of structure.
No, I can totally see that too, and it's just kind of where its story goes that's quite a bit different. But I get that.
Yeah, and I really liked Sawyer Spielberg. That's the last thing I'll say. I think he's good. I think he's really good, and I'd like to see him in more stuff.
Yeah, actually, it's always nice to see that every once in a while there's another Busey out there that's gonna
yeah, or what's the fucking
or a Russell.
No, what are the brothers? I don't even know what I'm getting at. Yeah, no, and it's one though. Also, I took a lot more out of it the second time watching it, because after knowing, like, I knew going in where it was going to end up, so there were a lot of little nuances that I picked up on that I didn't the first time, and it's definitely a very layered and complex film. So that's Honeydew. Sorry, did you say you have one more?
Yes, I have one more.
Okay, hit me with it.
All right, just in case you wanted to check out a show from a couple years ago, I finally got around to. I had started watching this, I want to say like 2 years ago, and never finished it. And I finally I sat down and I binged it. I watched all of The Terror.
Stranger Things.
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, say it.
The Terror.
Oh, nice.
From 2018.
Yeah, so I think I saw the first episode, but it was coming out weekly, and I just like fell off.
And they're
right
like 45, 48-minute episodes. So that's where it's like I don't feel like I watched a ton of movies since, but it's like I crushed all that, which was a ton of hours. But amazing show. I really have to say, I know it's like telling people that like Game of Thrones is good after the fact, but like if you haven't seen The Terror, it's fantastic. It covers the Franklin expedition that went horribly wrong. Bunch of tea drinkers came up to try and find the Northwest Passage in Canada, and the winter just whooped their fucking ass. That's my description of it. But it's...
I'm gonna watch it now, like immediately. I'm gonna probably start it tonight.
You should, and I think you'll get a lot out of it too. I wasn't just paying attention to the story. It's how beautiful it is. They set this whole thing up, and it's just, I don't know. It's got me intrigued to the point where now I'm looking up information about the actual like Franklin expedition. It's like you can tell a movie's good when it makes you go and search. Movie or TV show is good when it makes you go and search out more things of that nature. I always find.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's a second season.
Yes,
of The Terror.
there's 2 seasons. I crushed them both.
Oh, is it done already?
Yeah.
Does it still follow the same? Like, is it a separate story, or is it a continuation from?
So it's based off this book, and basically this guy, it's his version of, because we don't truly know what ended up happening to him, but it's kind of an, a fictionary idea of what might have happened, and then they add in kind of a spirit element to it, which is also really cool. I think you'll really dig it. There's a ton of violence in it, and it's just, I think overall, besides the violence, it's just a very well directed, shot, edited. It's like a masterclass. You watch this and it's beautiful.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I'm actually gonna get to that, because I've been lately, now that we're done filming, I've been trying to look for long-form TV shows that I missed out on, or just haven't gotten to yet.
Well, and normally it's hard for me to commit to something like that. That's why I started watching it years ago and never finished.
I know what got you for it,
but
because I know what the reveal is. So definitely a Buzi thing, and definitely a Mitch thing.
I think you'll love it.
I'm certain I'm gonna love it, and I didn't not watch it because I didn't think it was good. It's one of those ones where I wanted to wait until it was all done so I could binge it, and then once it was all done, other things got in the way. But
it's kind of like how I'm gonna start watching the second season of The Mandalorian right now.
Yeah. Wait, say that one more time.
I haven't seen the second season of The Mandalorian, so.
And you're a meme lord, so you obviously know how it ends. Oh, good God, Buzi, go watch it now.
We just got the Disney Network. I'm definitely going to watch it.
You got to. It's so good. I love season 2.
Oh, I love the show. It's just, I don't know. I drop off watching TV shows and then I'll come back later.
That's it's unbelievable that hasn't been spoiled for you, though, because it's like one of the biggest, nerd fandom moments.
Right.
You'll see.
Well, it's also,
I just can't believe Jar Jar's back.
Do you still watch any of the shows on, I just went and looked at all the Star Wars stuff they have now, and there's 8 other TV series I've never heard of.
Can't even keep up with it.
It's ridiculous.
And, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. It's the same thing with, I know you're not a Marvel fan, but I've even fallen off Marvel shows because it's too much. There's so much.
I was even going to mention there's a Marvel movie either just came out or is about to come out, and it's holy shit, it feels like every month there's another one. Is there not a burnout?
No, it's the TV shows that are causing burnout for me now, because it's hard to dedicate 10 hours to something,
Right.
I could keep up with going to see. At one point there was a new Marvel movie every month. I'm that's just one of 50 movies I'm going to see this month.
Really? That's not a burnout for you? I don't know.
I'm slightly getting burned out now, but they weren't burning me out before, because and I know it's just a difference in opinion, but they were always good. They maintained a level of quality that I was always still entertained in. That's even the Suicide Squad. I saw that. I didn't mention that, but that movie, I don't know if you have any intentions of seeing it, but
probably not.
Buzi, you will fucking love it.
Really?
It's James Gunn unleashed. I thought it was great. But even that, I'm not as high on it as I probably would have been a couple years ago, just because there's so much now.
Right.
And I don't know. I think I'm just getting distracted, and I'm sure I'll come back to it. But Suicide Squad is fucking hilarious. Like it's really really good.
I've actually heard that it's super funny, so I want to check that out. But should we?
Like me and Jambi were losing it laughing.
I love Jambi. Should we get on to the main feature and let our listeners hear about Clayton?
Absolutely. So, it was good talking to you again, Buzi, and it was good talking about horror movies. We'll be back again next week. But for now, enjoy this conversation with writer-director Clayton Witmer of The Arbors.
We used to try to catch snakes and lizards and stuff like that. I just found something. I've never seen anything like it.
Do you know the people that's killing?
Everyone knows everyone around here.
And welcome to our main feature presentation, in which we are talking with writer and director Clayton Witmer, who previously released his latest film, The Arbors, which is a sci-fi thriller horror film that Buzi and I both had a chance to check out on our beloved Tubi. That is where we learned of the film's existence. And we both watched it, and man, it's a tremendous movie. It's really, really cool. So we're really happy to have you here. Welcome to the Terror Table, Clayton.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess let's talk a little bit about you first as a director and a writer and a genre fan. Are you a fan of horror movies in general?
Yeah, I am. I wasn't like growing up. I was very scared of them, so it's like more of a newer thing, I suppose. With movies overall, horror is probably a later genre I've gotten into, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Sci-fi was maybe even for this movie what led into it, and the other elements sort of developed from there.
Okay. So what got you into horror? Because this does feel like a very heavy horror film, and you have a lot of the what would I put it? I guess the horror timing you have down very well, and that seems like somebody who is kind of seasoned. So
yeah. Well, I guess so. This was actually probably the first bigger project I'd done that was like specifically horror, or at least mostly horror. I'd done I'd been in film school before this, and I'd kind of not wanted to tackle anything super serious. I'd done like mainly comedies and stuff there, just to sort of, practice there, because I feel like with drama and horror, you can sort of easily go overboard, I guess, or it's harder to to land. So I don't know. I think just, with this project, I definitely got into it, obviously studied a lot and all that. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that, like, because it is super easy to go over the top with horror, and it's really easy to make your serious topic seem like a joke, and that's never once a thing in The Arbors. Like, it's such a straight-faced film, and it's very reserved and emotionally tense. So, like, you mentioned that you're a fan of, like, you started with comedies and everything, but like there's got to be some deep roots of I personally, like, I look at this thing and I think it's kind of like a sci-fi horror version of The Burbs in some way, which is one of my favorite movies. So yeah, I guess I'm wondering, like, where you kind of pulled inspiration for this specific story.
Yeah. So I feel like where the idea started at was the basic, a guy finds a creature. And I feel like that to me was a very not, I don't know, fundamental, but like in my childhood, that was something I maybe spent a lot of time thinking about. Like that's something that would have been very cool to me. So this movie also like a lot of childhood themes. That's obviously sort of the focus of it. So once once I got that idea, it all sort of built from there, pulling in references and whatnot. So, like we looked up a lot of older like monster movies to kind of. So I want to make a monster movie that obviously it's not a straight monster movie. There's a lot of drama and whatnot, and I wanted to be able to work both with and without the creature elements.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely does. Like it's for the most part, it kind of this is one that I could see a lot of like the hardcore cult horror fans. Like this isn't going to be something they might go into this thing thinking it's going to be a wacky creature feature, and it's anything but that.
Exactly.
But that's what's like really really interesting about it though, and it's got a great cover. Like that's Buzi is our we call him the raccoon of Tubi. So he's always digging through, finding all the little gems, and he immediately hit me up after he watched this one, and he was right. I did really, really like it. But
awesome.
This was like a first feature for you, hey?
Yeah, I mean, this is literally and I mean, it kind of just came out too. So we shot it after graduating film school, sort of this group of students that we'd worked together for a long time, back in 2016, and it's just been like post trying to get it finished since then. And then finally I guess like we were supposed to come out March of last year, and then obviously that didn't happen. So it's been a weird like rollout kind of for the first feature experience, where it's sort of this I don't know, just people finding it and like reaching out to me on the internet and whatnot.
Really? That's cool. Probably been a huge change for you.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's been unique. Like it's my first feature, so I don't know what a normal experience would be, but doing like the virtual festivals and all that kind of stuff has definitely been interesting.
I have to ask, just because I was kind of looking, Chelsea Cummings, who you wrote this with, you've actually worked with her, I believe, on all of your short films. Is that somebody you graduated with?
Yeah, we are engaged now, so sort of.
Oh, okay.
We just together on everything.
Sure how that worked, but congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah. So we're working on stuff now together, and we sort of with this feature, I'd worked on it myself for a couple drafts, and then it actually changed a lot over whatever the process. So she came in on some of the later drafts and helped shape it up a bit.
Yeah. Where did you see that she helped a lot in terms of your script? Like, do you feel like, I guess the first question would be, do you feel like you put a lot of yourself into your characters in this, and kind of, what did Chelsea help add for that?
Yeah. I mean, I know the characters are like a little weird and offbeat, so I don't know if I so much like with the character, the overall tone was kind of where I started with it. Like that was the tone that the finished movie was kind of like the very first feelings of it. So honestly, Chelsea came in and probably mainly helped with like structure and like character stuff towards the end. Some stuff like really got shifted up in the last draft. With like the Brody character and stuff like that. Like he didn't actually, I think, exist before the last draft. It was sort of a different direction. And it's hard now because, there's so many different layers, or not layers, but so many different times you're rewriting through the editing and all that. And Chelsea's also been there through that process. So it's all just kind of melds together. It's hard there's definitely not a definitive line.
It's a ballsy move for you guys on your first feature to have such a big cast. Like there's a lot of characters in this thing, and that's something that really stood out to me as someone who, like, I'm just jumping into my first foray into filmmaking and everything. Just finished my first short, and it's two people.
Awesome. Gotcha,
just two people. So it's just like, I commend you for thinking, like, I'm like, I don't like for a first feature and everything, having that many characters and to not have it feel overstuffed or anything. Like it's the way that you guys let the film breathe that I think really makes it work. And it's those quiet moments are what this film's really all about. It's not even really the creature story. It's just the quiet moments between all these tense characters.
I'm glad that worked for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Buzi, you go.
I was going to say, what was kind of the inspiration for the creature itself? Because that's one big thing with a creature feature is you have to have something that's maybe not entirely, well, I don't know if it is, because there are some where it's like, it's not entirely believable. I'm not saying yours specifically, but like to make something that does like feel really believable and anatomically somewhat, you know, like how did you go about creating that creature? Was it inspired by a specific thing? You kind of mentioned you guys had done your homework on that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting thing because it kind of stretched through the entire production post and everything. Because I would say the final design of the creature wasn't nailed down till, you know, very late in the process. But just the idea that it was this big, spindly, sort of creeping, like long tendril legs and whatnot, sort of to me, like always fit with the tone of it, just like this, like creeping dread the whole time the things are like closing in. So. And also early on, we had the idea that we were going to do the creature like practically, just with legs coming on screen and whatnot. So a lot of it was sort of storyboarded out in that way to just be sort of coming into the space and whatnot, and never fully seen. So that was like one part of it. And then just really working with the what would it be, the computer modeler, like just back and forth with him, like nailing down the specific design and just kind of so it was always going to be like a giant spider sort of thing, but just finding references along the way. There's like some, you know, microscopic picture of some like flea or something under a microscope that was like kind of what we used for like the head. So, yeah.
That's a very important element of creature. Even though, like, I know this isn't, you wouldn't necessarily call this a standard creature feature, but Buzi and we built a relationship off of fans of monster movies and creature movies. So it obviously, I saw the poster for, I was like, oh, I get why Buzi loved this and why he wanted to check it out. But yeah, that's the design of this thing is really cool. If I had to like explain it to someone listening who hasn't seen it, it kind of almost feels Guillermo del Toro-esque inspired. Like the types of things that you'd find in his creepy house that he roams around in.
Right.
So which high school or film school did you graduate from, and kind of like what filmmakers did you know get inspired from growing up? What made you want to go into film? Like, let's talk a little bit about, you know, that your choice of career and how that went.
Take us back to the beginning, Clayton.
Yeah, take us way back.
So I actually grew up in Canada, in BC.
Oh, you're Canadian
boy.
I am. Yeah.
Sorry, that's not really something to celebrate anymore. But yeah, we're Canadian as well.
Right. No, yeah. So what was my point with that? I grew up there. So I had some opportunities to go to like I had some film classes in middle school and whatnot. Growing up, like the movies I liked the most were just like Jurassic Park, Star Wars, those kind of things, which I think, you know, some of that kind of comes through to this kind of movie, you know, the creature or whatever element. So yeah, kind of those bigger movies. I don't know, it's kind of the only thing I've ever wanted to do, so it's sort of, I've always been interested in it. And then, yeah, kind of the middle school class was when I sort of thought like it could be a career, so it was like a cool thing. I moved down here to North Carolina, and when applied to the School of the Arts, UNCSA, North Carolina School of the Arts, a film school. And sorry, let me regroup this train of thought.
Oh, that's all good.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a big question.
Yeah, my whole
tell us about your whole life.
Yeah,
really fast.
So it wasn't. I didn't really move to this area for the school or anything, but sort of just good opportunity that was sort of already around it. So I applied to the school, got in there, and just over the years there just sort of grew a group of filmmakers there, you know, cinematographer and producer and whatnot. And so we made, I think, like 3 or 4 short films throughout school together, and it was always a great experience. And so almost the idea of making a feature together kind of predated the idea of the Arbors. We knew like when we graduated, we all wanted to make something right away before we all kind of dispersed. So I'd actually kind of spent the summer before our last year of school, like racking my brain, trying to come up with an idea, and landed on this idea, obviously, and then spent that last year of school developing it. And we actually had some classes that were like similar to first feature classes. So I was able to, kind of use those classes to my benefit and like workshop the story with different classmates. And
what was the part about film? Like, did you know going into film school that you wanted to direct?
Yeah. Well, you know, I love like the filmmaking part of everything more than directing. I like even figuring everything out, like building little, like I did a lot of the special or, you know, the practical effects on this movie and all that. I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. But yes, directing has always been, I guess, the end goal for sure.
Nice.
Okay. Do you have any specific directors that really influenced you? Like it seems like Spielberg, I'm assuming.
Sure, yeah. So I kind of like usually like pick a director and kind of go through their work and stuff and like spend time on that and then move on. So I don't, there isn't one overall. I guess it just depends on whatever time I'm in. Um, During the making of this movie or, the pre-production kind, I think it was sort of Denis Villeneuve with like Enemy
Oh, yeah.
and even Prisoners. I think those were like big, visual influences, which you may be
I,
able to,
I was totally gonna say before, like, enemy. I was gonna say that to me it felt like The Burbs meets Enemy,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't want that to be like just because obviously there's like the tentacle type creature in that film, and it plays such a small role, but it's
Right.
the tone of the movie
Right.
mixed with yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
absolutely. I think we use like the Enemy soundtrack as like the whole temp track, like for
Yeah,
cutting it, and like Under the Skin, some tracks from that and whatnot. So that's probably another influence. It's just kind of like not offbeat's not the right word, but almost unsettling.
Off-putting?
Like, yeah,
Kilt,
Yeah.
off-putting.
Okay.
Dread and Babadook at the time was like a big one that we were kind of looking at. Yeah, yeah.
that's
Where
cool.
did you get the sound effect for the creature itself? Because that also is another great part of a lot of creature features. You got to have like the right sound to
Right.
really, and especially with you're talking about like the mood you guys are going for, you can't have it, making kind of goofy sounds like a clown nose or something. So where did you get that idea from, or is that just something somebody threw together?
No, so we had probably the earliest thing was on the actual set. We had like our producer Clay was just doing some in the scene where like the guys in the white suits are kind of being attacked and the main character's hiding. Clay was just doing like these real horrifying screeching noises and whatnot just to get a something for the actor to react with. And so that was maybe the earliest thing. But during the editing, I just recorded a bunch of temp noises, I think, of me actually doing it. And then the sound designer took it from there, and he actually like just built them, I believe, up from scratch, just using different elements. And then it was important. What was it? Yeah, okay. Sorry. There was an important element that we wanted to focus on, both with the score or the sounds of the creature, but also with the score, because the creature has themes when it appears and whatnot, where it's like higher pitched and smaller in the beginning, obviously, and then it's like growing more mass throughout the film. And yeah, so that was one of the ideas.
So how did you paint that picture for your actors who had to react to it? Like you said that you had like your one of your one of the other people on set was making the screaming noises or something like that. Like is that kind of just what you gave them? Like react to how you would if you heard this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it was, I guess, specific to like the scene and whatnot, because some of it's like fear, and then a lot of it with the main character. He's very like enamored by the creature. So, it's all of that. We had, as I said, we were originally trying to do it practically. So I had some like half finished practicals to like wave around on set in front of the actors for some shots. So, but that was about the extent of it.
Yeah, that's got to be tough. I was just looking today. I shared it on Instagram, but Film Freeway posted a bunch of like scenes with heavy VFX that they didn't have VFX on set, and the one that caught me off guard was the girl in Twilight petting the big wolf dog, and it's like
Right. Yeah.
it's just a guy in a green suit just holding his head down, and
Right.
she has to pet this giant wolf. Yeah, but that's kind of stuff that people don't think about, and rightfully so. While they're watching these movies, they shouldn't be thinking about that. But our brains are we're curious about this stuff.
Yeah, that the whole creature, obviously, it was a big point of anxiety, honestly, through the entire thing, because it was important. The idea was to do it practically at first. As the production began, I realized I wasn't going to be able, because I was going to be the person like making that, and I wasn't going to be able to do that with everything else going on.
Yeah.
So we sort of, it's not it's not something I would recommend, but we sort of just had to be like, all right, we're going to have to do this in post, but and just move forward, like just push forward, believing that we're going to be able to bring it together later. And there's a lot of elements like that with this, because it was a very small, but it was like Kickstarter, and the budget was like 14,000 shooting or whatever. So everything was just like scraping it together as we were going. Like when we started shooting, we still didn't have all the actors cast for like stuff scheduled later down the road, and locations and all that. So that, was kind of the spirit of it, and it definitely factored into the effects as well.
The VFX look really good in it. Like the creature looks good, and like that's I totally know how you'd feel in that position, kind of imagining, because that's the one thing that could make everything fall apart, and you really don't know how it's going to end up.
I should say the entire thing was done just by two guys. One guy did all the modeling and rendering and coloring and all that, and then another guy did all of the animation himself. So I mean, it was like a year process just for that.
Crazy. What are those guys' names?
So Andrew Dole did all the animation, and we went to school with him. He was like a year under us. So our producer. So obviously that was something that happened later in pre-production. There was actually someone else we were working with for a long time that ended up kind of screwing us over and like setting us back and stuff. So we found him later, really came in and sort of saved, not saved the project, but saved that, part of it for sure. And then it's Ryan, I believe, Ryan Shapiro did all the modeling and coloring and all of that.
That's cool. Yeah, those are the types of jobs people don't think about. That a lot of hours go into that.
They're usually probably, this amount of VFX shots or whatever would probably be done by a lot of people usually. If we had the resources to do that. But so, yeah.
So what are you going to be continuing to write and direct? Is that something you want to keep doing? Is doing your own stuff, or have you been wanting to move into? I guess the dream is to do your own stuff, but to pick up other scripts as well.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm mainly just interested in doing my own stuff. I haven't had anything to turn down yet, so I can't say, so I saw something great, I wouldn't want to do it. This movie just kind of coming out now after being worked on so long is kind of giving us some opportunities to hopefully move forward and stuff. So we've had ideas we've been, developing and writing this whole time. So that would be the, best case scenario for sure.
And I guess my other question is, like, are you aware of all the places this movie is showing now? Like, how is the process of getting on Tubi even? Like,
yeah, no, well, so it's been weird because, so we made like some deals with, we made a deal with Gravitas to do North American release, and then another company called Tricoast to do like international. And then they go out and make all sorts of like, deals with different platforms and whatnot. So, no, I don't know. Like, it's been cool. Like, some things have been a surprise. Like the Tubi thing, I was not aware of until people started. Like, I, saw it on Twitter or whatever. But that's cool. I'm just happy people are seeing it in any way possible.
Oh yeah, and it's a place for like a lot of horror fans lurk around there because that's where you find them.
Yeah, and the other thing is right when you log in, that one for probably still is right now. Is it was featured? It's like awesome. It was one of the first ones on there. You were right beside Swim, the crawl ripoff that they just put out.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing that if you can't talk about it, just let me know and I'll cut this part out. But like, I saw that it's also titled Alien Invasion. Is that kind of a distribution thing where someone decides that we're going to take it, but we need to change the name? Like, how does that kind of stuff work?
It's pretty funny. That was also something I didn't see until I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, someone tagged
that's
me
my movie.
Well, so yeah, someone tagged me in it, and I was like confused, and it took me a while to figure it out. So what happened when we were going back and forth with like contracts and different stuff, I saw that in there, like, we have the right to change the name or whatever. So I was like, oh, what's that about? And we went back and forth on it, and they were like, oh, that's normal for international. And I was like, oh yeah, because the Arbors isn't really going to translate into anything. So I assumed it was going to be changed for, other languages. So I didn't think it would be changed like in the UK. So that was pretty funny, but that was a lesson learned for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
What's the response like? What's the general response been for it? Have you had people? It's like a ton. You said you had a ton of people reaching out for you, and what kind of?
Yeah, it's been like a wide chasm, I guess. There's the people I think that are obviously that enjoy it and get what it is, and then there's people that like you said, so just base it off the poster or whatever, and they're like very angry, and that was something I was not expecting at all, and was like very interesting in the beginning, because that was a lot of the the first day. It was like that was everyone like clicking on it, I suppose. We're just people, wanting like a straight monster movie and just being angry about that. So that's weird feedback that it doesn't really do anything, because it's like that's, I guess, just like a marketing thing or whatever. But
right, it's like this was never for you. You were never gonna enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's like unfortunate, I guess you kind of have to sell it like that. I mean, I cut the trailer myself, which is, makes it look more like a monster movie than it is, because it's like that's, I guess what you got to do. But yeah, but other than that, I mean, there's been a lot of good feedback, and I don't know, you got like
a little twist question for you.
Yeah,
how do you deal with the negative feedback? Like, how do you respond to it? Like, obviously, I don't expect that you're a guy who jumps on a letterbox to say, "Hey, fuck you, you don't know what you're talking about." But like, when people everyone's allowed to be a critic these days because everyone has a platform. So,
or a podcast.
how do you respond to or a podcast?
Right. Well, I guess I should say there's been enough like positive stuff by far to offset it. If it was all negative, I don't know how I would react to it if I just made something really, that everyone thought was terrible. But I don't know, I've never I haven't responded to anything because there's like, what's the point? Anything negative, I mean. But I'm definitely like a neurotic person overall, so I mean, I'm still checking that stuff all the time just to see what people are thinking and stuff. Right. It's obviously like not great, but if someone's like or if someone's so far off on it, it's like there was no point I was going to change this, that it was ever going to be, they were going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some reviews for sure where someone's like, I liked it, but this was and it's like, if you already agreed with that, it's like, oh yeah, they're right. Yeah. About some small stuff, but I don't know. It's definitely it's a weird thing I didn't think I'd have to deal with. It's been almost a good thing to go through. Just a slightly thicker skin, because it's kind of like it doesn't matter, I guess,
Yeah, for sure. And the reason I wanted to mention that is because like I really hope our listeners go out and check the film out and everything, because if you do actually do any sort of digging, like we watched the film and everything, but then I went on IMDb, and of course, there's always there's an onslaught of idiots who just want to give everything 1 star or whatever. But then there's also mostly people being like, what are these small short ratings for? Like, this is actually pretty impressive stuff. Mm-hmm. And I know Buzi and I feel that way about the film. So we hope people will go and check it out and maybe rate it on some stuff and get those numbers up.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, and I don't mean to be a downer about it. Like, I'm very happy about, the whole response and everything.
No, we were asking. That's perfect.
Well, I appreciate it for sure.
Do you feel like, sorry, I had 2 kind of final questions for you. So I was going to say, do you have any interesting stories from the whole process of, from Kickstarter to filming? And then I guess the other thing would be, between the reviews, like everything coming out, is what have you learned that you can take moving forward? Kind of a loaded couple questions there.
Yeah. So just an interesting stories from the thing. There was a lot. So, I don't know. Like, there was no one really, I guess, in charge of us. Was a weird perspective to have, being in film school up until now. And then I'm sure in the future, if we ever get money for anything, there's going to be someone overseeing that. So we kind of knew we were in a weird place where we, it was like great in a way because no one was telling us what to do. But also we knew, like, if we don't get the shots, or like if we miss like the day or whatever, it's just not gonna, like, there's no one there to fix it for us, I guess, if that makes sense. So I think at some point we were like halfway through the shoot, and like me and the cinematographer and the producer like sat down and like looked over our whole schedule and stuff, and we realized we'd shot like, I don't know, like a quarter of it or so. I don't know. There was just a lot of, what am I saying? Just the actual elements were probably more difficult than making the movie, just the physicality of it, everything. Like, myself and the production designer and a few other crew members got like real bad poison ivy like halfway through from like the abandoned house location, and that, so I mean, it was a pretty miserable shoot. I mean, it was a great time with everyone there, but all of the circumstances were just, like bare bones.
Well, it's a 20, like, if I'm correct from what I saw, a 25 day shoot for a 2-hour movie, and on a very, very small budget. Like, that's a pretty big undertaking. So I imagine that you guys all learned a lot of things moving forward, and maybe things that you're going to do a little differently next time. Because just in my experience, the scheduling is the scariest part. Because if you don't shoot that scene, it's not going in there.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like we weren't prepared. I mean, we were like, the entire thing was whatever, like,
I would say you're even just like super, like, I admire how ambitious it is. Like, why not swing for it?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of been like our perspective with the short films we made and stuff for like a little larger scale in some elements or whatever, and just kind of like trying to go big. And I don't know. I know that could be in a bad way. Like it's not trying to just be some big like overblown thing, but we also didn't want to make like our first like movie that was just like it's a couple people like hanging out and talking or something because maybe it's not going to stand out or what, you know. So might as well try for it.
Cool.
And then yeah.
Yeah, I think I just like my last question for you is so you're currently still residing in North Carolina then? Is that where you're making films?
Yeah, I mean, that is where I'm living right now. I'm doing like mainly, you know, video production work as a job and just trying to get some films going for sure.
Yeah. How's the film scene out in North Carolina?
You know, it's been weird. So I think it kind of like was a bigger deal like right as I was going into college, and then they passed, I don't know how much you guys are aware, like they took away an incentive for film. Like it was like the third biggest spot here, I guess, before that. It's gone away since then, and I guess it's kind of coming back. But I mean, it hasn't, none of that's really affected me.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, that just shows, because obviously you go the Kickstarter route. I know like Buzi and I, we come from Saskatoon here, and our tax incentive, our film tax incentive is absolutely gone now. It's been gone for a long time. So the only way things get done is if you go out there and make them yourself. And it's just, that's why I guess I was curious, because it seemed like you guys had a pretty big and awesome team behind this thing, and you guys should all be really proud. So congratulations on the film, and hopefully more people get to check it out. Is there somewhere where you would guide our listeners to go and check it out rather than Tubi?
To watch it? Well, you know, it's on like Amazon, Apple TV, I guess Tubi. No, I don't, you know, wherever you want to watch it, whatever's easiest, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. We'll definitely thank you for the interview. This is great. We'll definitely be looking, and hopefully you'll reach out to us when your next project comes up. We'd love to see what you have done next, because like so far, very impressive for a first film, you know.
Oh yeah.
And that's why we reached out.
Thank you.
Yeah. You think you're gonna stick around in horror?
Yeah, well, so I don't know long term, but the next like project I'm working on is like definitely horror, probably more so even than this. So yes,
cool,
absolutely.
Can you give us like any tidbits of info on that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, let me think what I can say. And this is like something.
I don't want to put you out if you can.
No. Yeah. It's just like someone like dealing, I guess, with the aftermath of some big event that happened, and and how it's psychologically affecting them. But so also
the death of Harambe,
for sure. What's that? Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, it was really nice meeting you, Clayton, and best of luck in the future, and thanks so much for coming on the Dare Table.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.